Hello, welcome to Off the Shelf Reviews.
I've got to review a film with this ill fucker.
And I'm very ill. And today we're going to review and discuss The Ghost and the Darkness, which came out in 1996, written by William Goldman and directed by Stephen Hopkins. Iain, why don't you give us the synopsis?
Well, the story follows Val Kilmer's character, Colonel Patterson, who has been hired to make a bridge across a river to finish off Sir Beaumont's train line. When he gets there and takes control of the workmen are being attacked by two man-eating lions known by the locals as the Ghost and the Darkness. Val Kilmer has to use all of his skills to try and bring these lions down.
I'd vaguely remembered this film from childhood, something that I had seen but very much so forgotten, and so rewatching this was like rediscovering an old forgotten film that you remember, but now you can get to enjoy it all over again because you've forgotten almost everything that happens in it.
Yeah.
And it is amazing that this film ever did actually get made. The idea for the script was pitched to the studio as Lawrence of Arabia meets Jaws.
Yeah, I kind of get that.
But the studios were still not so convinced, and it was really only until Val Kilmer had signed on to the project that the studio went, okay, here's some extra money to get this film made. Now, director Stephen Hopkins, who we definitely remember from Predator 2.
Yeah, and Blown Away.
Yep. And he has gone on record as saying that this is the most miserable time making a film he's ever experienced in his entire filmmaking career.
Did you get this from the film?
I feel like it. I feel like I've got some African disease.
Some kind of malaria.
Their suffering is only transitory. Once they accept God into their hearts.
That's just vomitous talk, Mr. Starling. Poor bastards will get even sicker if you don't shut up.
I got that as well. Back in the day, people had said to me, "Oh, you got to watch Ghost and Darkness. It's really, really good." And I hadn't got around to it. And then when I finally sat down and watched it, it felt very low budget. You know, there was so many jumps that it just felt rushed along. And I kind of got it again watching the film again older for the review. That it's like, the film opens up with Patterson walking in to talk to Sir Beaumont, or Sir Robert Beaumont. I call him Sir Bob because it's just easier that way. And he's played by the great Tom Wilkinson. And he just, puts him in his place and says, "Yes, you're going to go to Africa and you're going to go to Tsavo and you're going to make this bridge for me, or I'm going to make your life a living hell." And
that's just it. This is a very historically accurate film, and this was a point in time where the British really wanted the superiority over the rest of the European countries like France and Germany.
Yeah.
And so we really wanted that railway to get to India so that we can open up these trade routes to make us,
the big money.
Yes.
The big money.
We are building the most expensive and daring railroad in history for the glorious purpose of saving Africa from the Africans and, of course, to end slavery. Our competitors are the Germans and the French. We are ahead, and we will stay ahead, provided you do what I've hired you to do.
It's not a big part of the film, but definitely a couple of characters do make snidey comments about how life is so cheap here because the bigwigs just thinking about the big bucks.
Yeah, but I mean, the film doesn't expand too much on that. It's you're here to watch Val Kilmer try to take on two lions, and it rushes through the whole family aspect as well. He's got his wife. She's going to be giving birth soon, and he wants to be home to see the birth of his son, and they have their little kiss on the train. But yeah, I'm older now, so I'm looking in the background, and I'm like, this is a shoddy set piece. This is just being thrown together, especially that moment where she looks down the corridor and you see him slowly walking into the smoke. And then it jumps. He's in Africa now.
Yeah, that for me worked. That was just the film language. Just it's cheap but very effective.
It would get cheaper later on. I'll get to the point later on. But when he gets to Africa, it's really nice. I love that.
Yes.
The view of the countryside. I want to say countryside. Savannah. Is it savannas?
Yeah.
The wildness of Africa, shall we say? I like that whole bit where they're sat on the train. It's him and Angus, played by Brian McCarty. And they're just going along. Val Kilmer just kind of soaks up the script here. He's just like, oh, what do you know about those animals? Well, I'm Val Kilmer and I know everything.
They're amazing, aren't they? You know the most amazing thing about them? They sleep only 5 minutes a day.
Don't like them much.
The females are bigger. Only animals here like that. Have to be or they wouldn't survive because the males eat the young.
I'll get drive-through.
Well, he's a character who's always wanted to go to Africa, so it's like his big dream come to reality. And so he's done all this research and planning, and so he's excited to be where he is.
Yeah,
and you get that watching the film. You get the sense of adventure, and that you're going along for the ride with this character.
But the Irish accent...
Anything special about them? Oh, it's just that they fart through their mouths.
I've lived in Africa for a year and I don't know what you know. How long have you been here?
Just about 24 hours. But I've been longing for this all my life.
It kind of worked. You know, am I wrong in thinking that Val Kilmer gives 110% for all of his performances? The films themselves may not be brilliant. I mean, we're talking... He was great in Heat.
Yeah.
You know, I love him in Top Secret. Is it Wonderland? Where he played the aging porn star, based on a true story. I think that was really good as well. I think that was Val Kilmer.
Mad Monaghan from Willow, you know.
Oh yes, Willow is amazing. I mean, but some of his other performances, like The Saint,
Doc Holliday from Tombstone.
Tombstone's good, but like I said, The Saint, I've never watched it, but I've heard such bad things.
I think any film with Val Kilmer in, Val Kilmer gives 110%.
Yeah,
what he's in.
Yeah.
I mean, critically, this film was panned for the performances by Val Kilmer and Michael Douglas, and so watching the film now, I'm just like, no, I think you were a bit wrong. I think Val Kilmer was really good. I would say we'll get to Michael Douglas in a bit, but Val Kilmer was really good in this, and according to the director, he was wasted by the time he got to Africa to start filming this because he had just left production on
Batman Forever.
No. He just left production on the island of Dr.
Oh yes, Island of Dr. Moreau as well,
Dr.
which
Moreau.
was another hard shoot.
That's right, and so he was working almost 6 days a week on The Ghost in the Darkness, and then while he was in the Batcave in The Heart in the Darkness, he got cast as Batman for the next film, and of course he went straight on to that. Whilst he was doing that, he was doing Heat. So we know that this man just worked and worked and worked.
This is it. He had all around about 95, 96, Val Kilmer had what some people would say bad films coming out. But when you sit down and watch them, he keeps you enthralled. I like The Island of Dr. Moreau. I know it's not brilliant, but I still kind of like it. Is it Val Kilmer again? I like Batman Forever. I am kind of sick and twisted, but he gives his whole performance. He's got this Irish accent coming along. You know, they get to the railway building site, and if they'd had a bit more budget, like a really, really big budget, it would have been a huge, massive set piece. But I think with what they had, they said, right, we just need to establish this couple of shots, show how big we're doing, and then we'll just keep everything focused around the railway line and around this bridge section. So he's got to Africa now, and he's had to deal with one lion, killed it in one shot. So he's established among the workers as now this hero. But this is where the film would jump again, and this is where my issue came up, is they start to build the bridge, and then they jump 7 weeks.
Yeah.
We see the lion, we see the worker standing there and feel the wind change on his face, and he's like, oh, something's up. And he looks out into the grassland, and this is where you kind of get the Jaws feeling, because you see the lion ears moving along, and it looks all scary. Then it jumps 7 weeks. So I'm like, so for 7 weeks, you guys have been building this bridge, and these lions haven't done fuck all.
Well, the lions are just, scouting their prey, waiting for the right time to.
7 weeks. Yeah. You're going with... See, now, I kind of call bullshit on that. I kind of feel like the director had to hurry the story along and had to establish this bridge being built. So we're going to skip 7 weeks.
This is all coming from the autobiography of the actual events that happened.
Yeah.
And so there was a lot of instances of nothing happened and just actually getting to work.
Yeah, but these are supposed to be the ghosts in the darkness, the devils of Africa come to life to track down Val Kilmer.
Not really.
No, not really. They're just lying.
But it's a nice supernatural kind of bent to it, which isn't there.
Yeah.
But you can kind of feel it. I mean, definitely the natives in Africa definitely felt like it was like a real curse.
Yeah. I feel as well the director, if he'd had the budget, would have given it a bit more of a supernatural feel if he could have, but he tried to keep it more historically accurate because of, you know, what they had. Like you said, it's based on the book written by the real Patterson. And these two lions turn up and start fucking shit up.
Well, they didn't even realise it was two lions at first either.
Yes.
And that's a great moment. You know, you sat there watching it and you're just like, clever girl. But there are some really great sequences. I liked one of the Africans who's just like, yes, I killed a lion too.
With my bare
hands.
Yeah.
And I just like that Val Kilmer just goes like that later on. And then unfortunately, during one of the lion attacks, it's that character that's pulled out of his bed.
Yeah.
And, you know, when you listen to the book or read the book, he sometimes described that some people would literally, their mattress was pulled out from underneath them and the lions would run off with their mattress thinking it was them.
Yeah.
He tells the story of one person whose mattress was pulled out from underneath him and he got back into the tent safe from the lion.
Nice.
Only to go on the next day, go wandering off and then actually fall and drown somewhere. And so it was just.
I shouldn't laugh.
No, it was just poor, you know. It's a harsh environment as well. So it's not just the lions eating people at night.
Yeah.
You know, there's all sorts of treacherous sort of environments as well. But when in the film, the depiction of the lions attacking, you know, it's very close up. You don't really get to see any blood or gore or anything until the after. There's the sound effects of the ripping and the tearing, which is frightening, in the screams. And so it's very, very effective. And the film does a good job then of having moments of levity. One of my favourite sequences in the film is when they're all sat there conversing and talking about religion.
Yeah.
And the Christian character is just like, you know, I'm not here to convert Africa into Christianity. Right now, my main task is converting you two to Christianity. And he's just like, you know, it's not going to happen. And the other character's like, I've got like 3 or 4 wives.
Yeah.
Like, it's not going to happen. But I was like, but it was a really great moment to build up the characters. Again, similar to Jaws, where the characters are drinking and bonding with each other. Only in the very next sequence in this film, that Christian doctor is mauled to death by one of those goddamn lions.
Yeah.
And that makes it even more brutal and horrific.
I'm beyond conversion. My mother's Roman Catholic and my father's Protestant.
I have 4 wives. Good luck.
I see. I love the background characters. I mean, we had John Kani playing Samuel. He's the African guy with the 4 wives.
Who's just recently turned up in Black Panther.
Nice. And he's got just some really good knowledge behind him. He's just got this good wisdom of wanting to help Val Kilmer's character, not to get him out of the country, but just to kind of help him along because he knows it benefits him as well. You know, he's getting a bit of money in his pocket. He's making a living. He's not, you know, living on the streets. He's not having to build railway lines anyway, because obviously you see all these other guys having to lift those massive pieces of metal and walk like 10 spaces and then just drop it down. It's really, really strenuous.
Well, that's where, because there was massive slave trade in Africa at this point in time as well, and the British were trying to put an end to the slavery.
Yeah.
But whilst these rails were being built, and whilst all of these other different countries in there as well trying to build their railways, a lot of slaves were treated badly. They got ill, and then were just kind of put in shallow graves if they were buried at all. Now, these lions as well also had easy prey here with some shallow graves, kind of dug up the corpses, and it suggested that that's how perhaps they got a taste for man flesh. Interestingly, scientists have done experiments on the remains of those 2 lions because they are in a museum, and have determined that the lions had tooth problems. And so they could not hunt zebra or anything else because the hides were too tough, or the zebra would be moving too fast that the lions would be in so much pain trying to pull at their flesh. so that human meat was actually a lot easier and juicier to get to.
Yeah.
And so that's why. But then there's another element to it which would suggest that these lions just really liked toying with people. Like a cat would toy with a mouse. These lions like to toy with men.
Well, that's it.
That's really the scary part too.
They had all those targets to deal with. All those men to play with.
It's the fact that they, at first the lions attack at night. But these lions just, eventually, they just don't give a fuck. They turn up during the daytime. Full daytime attacks. They're not afraid of fire, gunfire. They set up these bushes that are really thorny and thick.
See, now, are you going with the book or are you going with the stuff from the film? Because what I get from the film, like I said, I wish the director had gone with a bit more of a supernatural feel for the background of these two lions.
I'm glad he didn't.
Because when you go with the novel, I feel like it can be over dramatized and made to seem like these lions were...
Historians have always said that it seems a bit exaggerated.
Yeah, I mean, don't get me wrong, lions are going to be killing a few people down there. 30, 40, yeah, that's fine. In the film, I'd want... When you see these majestic beasts moving around, doing their whole stalking, they are like the ghost. They are like the darkness. You hear it in the wind. You see it on the characters' faces, their expressions, the fear that they're going through. But when you start to apply real life to it, like I said, if you look at the model, the bodies of the lions that they've got in the museum, I don't even think they look the same. Like the ones in the film have these big, massive manes.
Oh well, no, they are an entirely different breed of lion. The Tsavo Lions don't have manes like we would recognise lions.
Not like the ones in the film.
They're also a lot bigger and filled with a lot more testosterone and a lot more aggressive. So, because they use real lions in like 99% of this film, there's only one animatronic lion in the film.
Yeah.
They didn't want to use Tsavo lions because they were twice as big and twice as aggressive as a normal lion.
There's a lot of
and so you don't really want these angry-ish lions, the actual Tsavo lions, on set. So that you can understand why they went for these ones. But it is fascinating how the breeds of lion are so different. The ones in Tsavo don't have manes because of how harsh the terrain is.
Yeah.
It's pretty brutal, and so most of their manes would just get torn or scratched away anyway.
Savage.
But that's why there is a difference, and it's not, it's the only really major inconsistency in the entire film.
Well, there is one other major inconsistency. After a couple of failed traps, Val Kilmer has lost control of all the workers. The lions have managed to sneak into the camp while the camp's been under watch and killed a few people. We're talking 30 to 40 people have all been mauled to death during the day and night time. We've lost Angus at one point. And so Sir Bob decides that he is going to hire Charles Remington to come and help kill these lions.
The devil has come to Tsavo.
Oh, you're right. The devil has come to Tsavo. Look at me. I am the devil.
Now, Charles Remington's played by Michael Douglas, and I'm just going to call him Jack Colton in this film because that was the character Michael Douglas played in Jewel of the Nile. And they are literally the same character, basically. Jack Colton is a badass with a gun. He's walked with the African tribes. He's hunted everything on land and can kill anything. But he doesn't appear in the book.
No, he is... The studio wanted another character in the film.
Yeah.
And, and this is one of the major points of contention with the film in itself, is that Michael Douglas is an executive producer on the film.
Yes.
He was also one of the editors for the film, because after the director handed the film into the studio, Michael Douglas went, take that out, I'm going to take that out, I'm going to take that out, and he took out a ton of scenes that he wasn't in.
Wow.
And made him
Harsh.
the secondary star of the film, to which he was not originally intended. He was meant to be a bit part.
Yeah.
And the film was also much, much longer, pushing to the 3-hour mark.
Really?
But Michael Douglas went, nah, cut all this out, get my character in there as soon as possible, and go from there. And so it literally, he does, when he turns up, he does steal the film.
Yeah, see,
and
that's it.
It does, rewatching the film, I was just like, ooh, Val Kilmer had this. I like your character, Michael Douglas, but it's a bit thick and a bit heavy right now, and it would have been better if he was just in the background.
Yeah, see, now that's kind of weird, but for me, it's like, I kind of felt like the film flowed with Val Kilmer needing
somebody
else. That's just the way it came across. I know Remington shouldn't be there.
Doesn't even exist.
Yeah. But the way Val Kilmer comes across, it's like, yeah, I can't handle this. I'm losing everything around me. I'm going to lose my job. My family's going to be out on the streets. My friends and family are all being torn apart by lions and shit. I'm completely losing this. Michael Douglas comes along and goes, yeah, I got this. But the thing that gets me is that they hunt the lion for a while. And they end up killing one. They end up stopping the ghost or the darkness. I'm not sure which one they stop. But they stop one of the lions, and then they sit down for another drink. Just like in Jaws, they've got a couple of bottles of champagne. And I sit there like, okay, guys, you've been hunting 2 man-eating lions. You've killed one, and you're going to completely put your guard down now. Yeah. You're going to completely put your guard. Michael Douglas is like, it's all right. I'm fine. I still got my gun. And we go into a dream sequence. Now, this is one of my favourite sequences in the whole film, is the dream sequence with Val Kilmer and his family. The way it's filmed, the sunlight, her white dress holding the baby, the way the lion moves when it comes up and it grabs her. And it's quite shocking the first time you see it. When he wakes up, he stumbles out of his tent. Remington's dead.
Yeah, didn't make a sound.
Yeah, I'm like, hold on a minute. Michael Douglas is just dead. I'm like, but I thought he was the badass character coming along to help out. It's just such a shock. I expected to see him die in battle, fighting the lion runs off.
I expected the character to die, but, it's like the Quint character in Jaws, they have to go.
Yeah, right, Quint has to go, and Quint goes very well. Remington, he's just like,
gone, yeah. So it's kind of annoying. Maybe it was cut because he was screaming like a girl when he got eaten, and they were just like, he's such a badass. Having him crying as he's being eaten is just not...
And why that wouldn't wake up Val Kilmer,
Yeah.
Because Val Kilmer's obviously drunk off of 2 bottles of champagne.
Yeah. I do think that the film captured 2 other moments very well from the book. And that is when he decides to build his contraption. And it's basically just a carriage which has a single entrance and a tripwire which you close behind, some safety bars on the other side so that you can easily shoot the lion at leisure. And in the history book, in his book, he said that he set up this contraption and he put in 3 riflemen who were good marksmen. They were also murderers, and the trap worked. The lion came in, the trapdoor went down, and the 3 of them couldn't hit the lion that was less than 15 feet in front of them after firing multiple shots. The film captures it exactly as it was in the book. So much so that when the lion roared, one of the marksmen in there went deaf from the roar.
Yeah.
And yes, they did shoot the lock off that was behind the lion for the lion to escape. It's like, wow. You just can't help but feel so sorry for Val Kilmer's character, like the actual character. It's just like you were just not, like something was stopping you from killing these lions. Later on, when he goes hunting for the lion, and King Theoden goes, here, we'll swap weapons. Mine's more powerful than yours.
Oh, it's just such a stupid point.
And so when he lines up the shot with the lion's staring at him, and it's such a great moment.
Yeah, but he should have checked the gun. Why didn't he check the gun?
I don't know. He just literally took it on faith, you know, that he wasn't going to be set up and so and he pulls the trigger and blank, nothing.
Yeah.
It's just like, and again, that's in the book. That's what happened.
Michael Douglas has to come along and fire off a couple rounds just to scare the thing off.
Yeah.
Shoot him! God damn it, shoot him!
Also, there is one other thing that is in the film and in the book, which scientists have just, historians have gone, this is the only thing really we don't believe, and that is the Batcave filled with human remains.
Yeah. I mean, it was a bit of a...
In 1997, they refound that cave, and there wasn't a single human bone to be found in or around that cave. So that's why a lot of people can go, this book has been very exaggerated from the real truths. Except the lions are on display in the museum, and they did check, they did some tests and counted that each of those lions had killed at least 30 people in the last 3 months that they were alive.
Yeah, see, I don't deny that the two lions weren't around that time, and he didn't hunt and kill them because they were attacking all the people.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, you just go and face facts. The large congregation of meat in one place, you're going to lure something over there.
Yeah.
Were they mythical, magical?
They just
beasts,
seemed a lot
supernatural?
smarter than your average lion.
Yeah.
Like, especially when, when they decide that this hospital stinks of blood and guts, so we're going to rebuild another hospital, put everybody in there, and then desecrate this one to lure the lions.
Yeah.
And the lions sniff it out, and they're just like, nah, not falling for it.
Yeah, we're not going for that.
And they go and kill King Theoden. And it does make me laugh because when you see his remains, you can see he's still breathing on the floor. And when you see a character who dies in a film still breathing, you're just like, they're not dead yet.
I'm not dead yet.
Don't just leave him there.
There. One of us needs to be brave.
So after Remington has been mauled to death, Val Kilmer decides that he's just going to do a Brody, basically, and face this lion on his own with his gun. Kind of cocks it up a couple of times. But manages to blast the lion in the face twice with Samuel's gun and kills him. And then he meets up with his family and has this whole Lion King moment at the end where he lifts his son up into the sunlight like, oh.
When he was told to, when you see your son for the first time, lift him high.
Yeah.
I didn't think he meant literally, like lift him up in the air high.
He'd seen Lion King as well. Everyone's seen Lion King, man. He's killed them, so he's the Lion King.
Didn't think he meant literally.
Totally literally.
So I actually have quite a few favourite scenes in the film. I think all of them of which we've mentioned. The steel trap with the lion trapped inside. When he's up in the tree, just sort of scoping out, just looking on the horizon for any sign of it.
Yeah.
The conversation with the three of them, with the Christian doctor, just laughing, joking. Kind of like that. I also there's a sequence when those that are building the rail tracks are just like, look, so many of us have died. We're just getting on this train and leaving.
Yeah.
And, it was just that long pan shot of watching their faces and just looking at Val Kilmer just stood there just like, I'm on my own now. It's just going to be me and a couple others and these lions. But it was just the music as well. The music really captured everything about what was going on in the film. It also gave you the sense of wonder. It's one of those soundtracks that you could easily listen to separate from the film.
Nice. I know this film is really low budget, and I know that some people would argue that some of the acting's not the greatest that we can get on screen. Michael Douglas and Val Kilmer don't immediately jump to the top of the list of some people's choices, but the lion sequences in this movie work really, really well. And if you go on the aspect that it's kind of like a Jaws film, that stuff really works. Lose the whole building the train line and the whole family stuff, and just have these two guys walking around Africa with rifles trying to bring down these two scary ass giant fucking lions is just awesome. Any of those lion sequences when they're sneaking up, whenever they attack people and they attack the camp with Val Kilmer on his own, or when he's working with Remington, all of those sequences are great. But my ultimate favorite scene has always been the dream sequence. I just love how that was filmed. It comes at a point in the movie where you don't realise it's a dream sequence.
I realised immediately. I just knew, and a part of my brain was going, but what if it isn't? I was like, oh no, this is a dream sequence.
But that's it. You're watching it now. I mean, the first time, 1996, this part just appears in the movie after they've killed one lion. Yeah. So it could be the next day. And the film's already jumped a couple of times. It could be 3 weeks in the future. But the wife's there. She's all dressed in white. She's got the kid. They're walking up. Val Kilmer's doing his run. Oh, I'm going to see my family. And then you see that shape move through the grass. And the way it runs up. And the way it just leaps on her. And his scream. It works so well that when he wakes up, you go, oh, thank God. It was just a dream, because I don't have to imagine a small child being
mauled by a lion.
Mauled by a lion. I definitely recommend The Ghost in the Darkness, but take it on the fact that it is 1996. You know, it is quite old now. It was a hard set to work on at the time.
Oh, yes.
So if it comes across not amazing, there are many reasons behind it why, but there's many reasons that give this film the grandeur that it needs to be watched for everything that it went through.
I think that this film is just shy of being truly fucking epic.
Nice.
You know,
nice.
I really, really enjoyed it. Partially due to the fact that I would think I'm feeling ill and being laid up on the sofa watching this film. You know, I forgot about being ill. You know, I was really invested in the world, in the characters, in the history, and the cinematography is spellbinding. You know, just Africa is just a lush, lush environment, despite how dangerous it can be. And like I said, the director said that they suffered during the making of this film.
Yeah.
They suffered snake bites, scorpion bites, tick bites, fever. People got hit by lightning. They suffered torrential rain and floods. They had crew members being chased by hippos. Cars got dragged away by animals and by rivers and floods. And unfortunately, two crew members lost their lives whilst making this film because of such harsh conditions while making it. So, when they say they had a hard time making this film, they really did. But you can't really tell that from watching the film. You know, you can't see it. They did a really good job. And so I have to recommend the film, especially for lazy days, ill days, hungover days. This would be a great film to watch and pass the time.
Would you say this film deserves a remake?
No, absolutely
Really?
not. No,
So,
it doesn't need to be remade because the lines would be CGI or it would be too gory or, you know, the characters would just be too heroic or...
Yeah.
And
so you don't want an extended history, like a 2.5 hour hunting epic out in Africa?
No, I'd watch this film again. I would watch this film again.
Yeah.
It was easy to watch, really enjoyable, great characters, pacing. So yeah.
Nice.
Thanks for watching Off the Shelf Reviews.
Good news. Expect so. From my wife.
You like her?
Very much.
I don't like any of mine.